Hello, welcome back to the channel. So this is another video on my Mind's Eye Theatre videos. In case you don't know, you're not aware, my Mind's Eye Theatre videos are going to focus on top tips for players, for storytellers, and think about running games, how you can improve games, because we're coming out of the pandemic and it's a chance to get back and meet people and interact with people and play games. Tabletop games is happening. I know some games have really struggled to get back on its feet post-pandemic. Some games, like the Glasgow independent game, GV Lap, they did a load of online stuff during pandemic, so they've been able to kind of start finding their feet again when they come out. So this video is going to be aimed at new people coming to games. It's a sad fact of life that you can have a great group of 20 people. If you don't recruit any new people to your games, over time that 20 people is going to slowly winnow down as people have other priorities in life. Jobs, work, family, just losing interest. So if you're not engaging and being cool with new people, those numbers will dwindle and you'll end up losing your game. So think about new players. And primarily this video is aimed at new people to help them understand what they're going to experience at the first game, what they can start thinking about. Maybe they've got friends that talk about it, but it's always good to have a second opinion. So, with that in mind, let's crack on. I've got loads to talk about, and a lot of this is from my experience, and I've learned loads over the years about games, players, storytelling, interacting. But more than that, I've put out a load of questionnaires to a lot of my friends that live roleplayed with. So I've got their thoughts and feelings. So some of that and angles which I might not necessarily have thought about is being fed in as well. So first up, the game. The game's going to be a safe space. Okay? So every Vampire live action rulebook, boom, has got a page on which are about the unbreakable rules. Okay? And some of that is all about your safety. So you've got some obvious stuff like no stunts, no drinking or drugs. It's about you being in control of yourself and be able to respond appropriately as an adult to what's happening. You've also got no weapons, both real and prop weapons. It's called Vampire the Masquerade, so you don't want somebody seeing, and there's some horror stories maybe about somebody having a prop gun and police being called and stuff. But you don't want people seeing that and getting the wrong idea. But also when you're playing a game, it is a game. Mind's Eye Theatre. You know, somebody pulling a gun and pointing in your face. You might have a different real life reaction, which will be different to your character's reaction. So whilst we want to create an immersive role-playing experience, we don't want it to go too far off the safe and narrow. No touching. Everybody's got different personal boundaries, so we don't want people kind of crossing those boundaries. It's just in character, it's what my character would have done. That's no excuse. Respect those personal boundaries and everything's cool. I would, before you go to your first game, check it out on socials, see if there's anything being said about it. I would say I am making this video from the point of view that you would be attending a well-run game. The vast majority of games I've been to, I'd consider a well-run game, and I haven't come across too many problems, but I will be doing a video about problem games. I haven't come across too many problems over my many years of live role-playing. So yeah, consider this, I'm talking about games which are best practice and good for players. Second one, the game itself. Most games are going to be set in Elysium. That's great. That's where vampires get to meet. It's a safe space for vampires. I just said it was a safe space for players earlier. So no powers, generally no combat. A good storyteller will keep all the kind of crazy, weird stuff off Elysium and maybe elsewhere. So you're going to have your players gathering around, talking to each other, interacting with each other. That's good for you, the new player, because it means you don't have to worry too much about the rules. Okay, and if you got into a combat or whatever, it'll be somewhere else, so you're not going to be the center of attention while that combat's occurring, or more complicated rules interactions are working. It takes it off you till you get in and you learn the rules. Costuming, it's Vampire the Masquerade. the masquerade vampires are trying to hide as mortals. So actually, you could just rock up in your jeans and t-shirt or whatever you'd normally wear, and it's okay. Unlike, say, field labs, traditional sword and sorcery labs with armor and props and stuff, you don't need that for vampire. Now, of course, one of the cool things about vampire is dressing up, and there is scope for that, and certainly sort of the goth subclass and people dressing a bit outlandishly doesn't get as much notice as it maybe used to back in the 90s. But that's cool. So you can consider your outfit for your first game. You could go in some relatively normal clothes and not feel too self-conscious about it till you feel out the game, and then you can decide where you want to take that as well. Next one's dead obvious. Try and talk to the ST team in advance. If you found out about the game, you've probably contacted the ST in advance to start talking about ST Storyteller, it's the person who organises the game. Start talking about your character and getting things organised. So you can turn up to the game, you can get a character sheet done, hopefully you've got a character sheet done, and get stuck in, rather than you and the storyteller or the storyteller's assistant having to spend time with you at the start of the game creating a character. It's better for you, it's better for the storyteller, who's going to have 101 different thoughts going on about setting up the game, running the game, and other people. You should never be a burden to the storyteller, but it's about making it easy for you and for them. The other thing is, even if you've got friends and you're going to go along with some friends and the friends are well into the game, still talk to the storyteller in advance and get as much stuff, character creation and thinking about the game and slotting yourself in, done in advance. Like I say, it just makes it so much smoother. Fortunately for me, I was running relatively big games, and I always had an assistant storyteller that was there to help new players who turned up on the night. Next one. So everybody's coming to Vampire Live Roleplay with a whole different series of experiences. Maybe you've done Vampire Tabletop for years, you know all the background, the setting. Maybe you're brand new. Maybe you've done other live role-playing games, and you used to be in the King of the Hill, etc. What I would say is, maybe with your first character, don't go in expecting to be the bee's knees. Vampire Society in-game is very stratified, and you're going to have to feel your way around it, get a feel for the game, get a feel for what's going on. Maybe think about, I'm going to play a character for a couple of sessions just to get a feel for the game, the rules and mechanics, what the game's like before kind of start creating my forever character. If you're new to Vampire or live role-playing, Vampire, think about playing a common clan. Yeah, you might have done some tabletop and let's say Follows a Set might be your all-time favourite clan, but maybe just by playing something a bit normal, a bit common to begin with, will help you ease into the game more. If you, for example, if there's loads of Brujah or Ventrue, by playing one of those clans, then you will have players there to support you. If you're going into something different, it's going to be harder for you to make friends and allies and sort of be accepted into the game. Number 6, the game and game actions are not personal and ends at timeout, or whenever the storyteller says freeze, stop saying whatever they do to pause the game. That's really important. Vampire games can get a bit intense. I'll talk about what that looks like in a wee bit. Just don't take anything that anybody does to you outside of the game. Celebrate it. As I've got older, I've realised the more fun I have is the more fun my character gets into, the more interesting scrapes and things that happen, and people doing stuff. Got some bigger, broader thoughts about all of this in another video. What I did with Game of Thrones when we wrote and ran a Game of Thrones system. But yeah, the more crazy, bad stuff happens to you and the more you can overcome adversary, the more fun it is. So yeah, don't take anything personally out of character. And the same way, don't take anything out of character into game. So you'd be a new player going to a game, so that shouldn't be too much. But if you're having a really bad day, if you're stressed out, whatever, and you're just not in the right mindset for going and playing the game, don't. Take a night off. Maybe book your first session another time. The game itself, the game is intrigue and mystery based. Like I say, it's Elysium. There might be different games out there, like a Sabbat game might be more combat focused, etc. But I'm kind of talking about Vampire Elysium kind of setting games. The mystery element that you're going to come across in your first game are other characters. See other characters as a mystery to uncover. Find out as much as you can about them. Engage with them. And the intrigue part is plot. So what a good game should look like is, let's say, I've got player A, player B, player C. Player A, that's me. I want to upset player C. Now I know player C, his big agent, the big person he controls in the city is the mayor. So I want to teach this guy a lesson, maybe humiliate him in front of the harpies or stop one of his machinations. So there's not a lot I can do about that, looking at my skill set. I'm tied up here, I'm tied up there. But I know player B controls a journalist. So what I'm going to do is go up to the player B and I'm going to say, look, I would like to owe you a favour. Vampires have favours called boons. And I'd like to slip some incriminating evidence into the mayor's office and see your journalist. I want your journalist to uncover it and maybe embarrass the mayor so the mayor doesn't win the next election. And for that, I'll offer you a favour. So then that happens, and then down the line, player B comes up to me and says, oh, so you owe me that favour. And you've got all those contacts in the docks. Well, I need to get some stuff through docks without worrying about customs. So can you do that? And then everything that we've done set and square and we don't owe each other any favours anymore. So you can start seeing how suddenly a complex web of allies, favours, boons start happening. On top of that, you've got status happening as well. So the primogen, the prince, you know, what they say kind of has to go and happen, and how you manage that and maneuver around that's really interesting. And if you're doing favours for people with big status, you will generally get on better than if you just sat in a corner kind of just waiting for stuff to happen. Which is my next point. Involve yourself in the currency of the game, boons and favours. Part of this is having a very clear idea about who your character is, what they offer in terms of skills, or what they can offer in terms of, like on the streets, mortals dealing with people. And the reason why it's important to boons, I see a lot of new players and experienced players as well. That's a whole different lesson. Just kind of shying away from boons. But if I owe people stuff, it might hinder me in the future. Well, actually, if you owe people stuff, that's okay, because they're going to be using you. You're going to find out information. You're going to see more plots and plans. You're going to be involved more. And if you're always the guy that is involved, you know, can do stuff, arrange stuff, fence stuff, and characters are always coming to you, that means you're always going to be busy in character doing stuff. So yeah, that bit where I talked about mystery, other characters are a mystery, you're a mystery to the other characters in the game. So get yourself out there, talk to people, let them know what you can do. Find out what they do. And then you could start controlling, manipulating and winning that game of boons and webs and favours, and you can start climbing up the greasy pole of prestation, which is sort of the politics and status games that vampires play. And with that as well, going into the game, even if you're experienced with the background and lore of vampire roleplay, tabletop, for your first character, think about playing a character who's relatively new, because tabletop and live role-playing is different. Think about maybe getting mentoring from other characters, pay for that mentoring, pay for boons, you know, pay primogen to get you to talk through the court, pay the harpies to get gossip. But mentoring, you know, we're saying about joining the common clans earlier, well, they'll help you and learn from those characters and really ingratiate yourself into the city, rather than being the guy who's, yeah, I know it all. Why is nobody talking to me? I'm the greatest underworld guy here, but nobody's talking to me. But you're not talking to anybody either. My next point is ultimately it's only a game. If you don't like it, leave. It's not going to be for everybody. That's okay. You know what? First session, if it's so bad you have to leave halfway through, probably not worth coming back. First session, you think, oh, is it for me? Try second session. You know what? If you don't try, you'll never know. And like I say, it's only a game. If things get too intense, pull yourself out of it. That's okay. Because my final point is, most games love new players. Like I said before, if a game doesn't recruit new players, a game's going to die. But actually, it's more basic than that. Role players generally are friendly people. Hopefully the ST's thought about how they can include new players into the game. Like I say, I used to have an assistant storyteller devoted to it. But if they don't, on the night, like I said earlier, storyteller just might naturally be a wee bit busy trying to deal with stuff and make sure everything's fine-tuned for the game. But there's probably some players out there who are sort of like, I'd call den mother, den father for the game. You know, an out character, find those people out, talk to them, try and talk to people on an out character level before the game, just get a feel for what's going on. And when you go into the game, you know, I've made some great long-standing friends from roleplaying. When I put my questionnaires out, some of my pals from way back in university days, which I have, guys I haven't seen in the flesh in 20 odd years, too long, were some of the first guys to respond back to me with that questionnaire. So yeah, so those people are just people like you. We've all had our first experience, and we all got over it, and we've all loved it, and got on with it. So there you go. There's some thoughts about what you can maybe expect, and maybe what you should be aiming to do in your first games as a new player for Mind's Eye Theatre, Vampire Live, loads of different systems, I said before, but Mind's Eye Theatre, and like I say, I'm coming at it from the point of view that it's a good, well-run game. If you've got any top tips that I have not covered in this session, and there are bound to be loads, pop them in the comments section. Let's help live roleplaying grow. What's the worst that could happen? Who knows? We might have some great games happening in the future. I look forward to talking to you again about, well, who knows what about. This channel's all over the place, but that's cool. It's just what I'm about. Anyway, you have a great time, and I'll catch you again. Bye-bye.